Oops, didn't want to do that, did I? So I will take the logo off and then take it away, John.
And that music continues to haunt us there, Bob.
Right, I know. Don't worry, I got a new video coming soon.
Exactly. So
we're gonna revamp the old opening and closing videos.
Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you to RVing in New England. And tonight, well, let me tell you, my name's John DePietro. The guy in red, the woman in red, no, it's not a woman in red. The man in red is Bob Zagami. And Bob, we have kind of something new tonight because we're in 3 separate locations really far from each other. I mean, you and I are 1,500 miles away. And our guest, Mike Gast, is how far? He's 2 time zones away. Or several.
2,000, 6,000, I don't know. It could be 5 or 6. He'll tell us, I'm sure, but it could be 5 or 6,000 miles away.
So our guest tonight is Mike Gast, former communications director for KOA and our friend for many, many years. And Mike has embarked on a new journey, and we're going to hear all about that. But first, Bob, we're going to talk about 3 important letters that are very close to the heart, near and dear to the heart of every RVer. And you know what?
No.
Those letters are BBQ.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Because moi, John DePietro, am going to be a judge at a barbecuing contest this weekend. It's the 60th. It's the huge 60th anniversary at Loons Haven Family Campground in the great state of Maine. And of all the people in the world they selected, I was the one. And,
wait. I think you've got the story backwards. They selected me and you.
Yeah, but we're not telling them the backstory about why you're not going to be there.
And I have a conflict because I'm in Florida buying a house. So, I couldn't make it this weekend, but I have a great fill-in. Billy McNamara is going to fill in for me and keep you under control during the hour-long Q&A and the judging stuff.
Let's make it perfectly clear right now on the record. I do not plan on even mentioning your existence as I take over this barbecue.
I wouldn't want you to.
I have already got a new bio that says John DePietro, host, executive producer, and founder of RVing in New England. So that's how I'm going to get introduced.
I suspect Billy will get on the stage and say, I want to apologize to you folks because I really wanted Bob Zagami, but he couldn't make it. So instead, we substituted with John DePietro. You can't handle that. See?
I mean, I can't handle that because I know it's not true. And, Walter Swenson is here. He knows it's not true. Lisa's here. She knows it's not true.
Loons Haven,
Maria,
Maine, this weekend. And you probably cannot get a reservation because they're booked out practically for the whole year. So with that, let's bring up our guest from one of the farthest away of the 50 states, Hawaii, Mike Gast, former VP of Communications with KOA, brilliant writer, as you may have seen through his current writings with RV Travel. Mike, welcome to RVing in New England.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me. And I'm about 5,000 miles away from you guys, I think, and it feels about right.
Yeah? It feels about right. Mike, I love your brick wall behind you.
Well, I didn't want to torment you guys with scenes of Hawaii, so I just threw the brick wall up on the green screen, so I've got something behind me. But usually my backdrop is a lot prettier than this.
Yep. Now Frank Cates is saying something here.
Yeah, well, we got.
Nobody never heard that saying, "Judge not, lest we not be judged." Oh God!
Who said that? Okay, Walter's on. Maria's on. Walter says good evening. Maria says good evening. Walter said, "Mum's head."
Man's head.
Man's head is growing by the second. He must mean yours, John, because I'm just very humble in my attempt to converse here.
And Bob, you have every reason to be humble.
Audrey Foley Egan. Wynn Semler, our guest from last week. Wynn, thanks very much for coming. Frank Cates, what's Frank got to say? Hey, Bob and John, let's see, what's Frank saying? Ain't nobody never heard that saying, oh, Joe, that's what you read. Judge, let's not be judged. Oh, well. No, we don't pay attention to that stuff. Mark Polk from RV Education 101.
Ah,
All right.
Mark. Hi,
Yeah.
Mark.
And Don Polk.
Great guy. Yeah, there's another KOA friend. Mark does a lot of work for KOA.
Mhm.
Bernie Culleton.
Bernie is one of the top salesmen at Campers in RV in Merrimack, New Hampshire. And he has his own radio show. And
It says
even-
Mark, but I bet you it's probably Don instead of Mark, because Mark's
No,
probably a
no,
better
they're
already.
both
Oh, no,
there.
that was Mark. There's Don.
Ah, okay.
There's
Hi,
Mark.
Don.
Yeah, they go to two different rooms when they watch the program.
Ah,
Yeah, because they want to yell at Zagami for
Right. Well,
not
no,
letting me get a word in.
Dawn's probably in the kitchen cooking a vegan meal for herself because Mark eats steak like John and I. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Now, Bob, let's just talk about Win Semler. He's a pretty smart guy because he knows that by watching tonight, we will probably mention the fact that they can buy his book, From Retired to a Small Business Owner. And he's smart to do that because he's an RV inspector now and has a booming business, but he's a PR guy as well, which is always the way you got to be, right, Mike? You always look for that opportunity to open the door.
Mike, that's a good lead in for Mike. Give us some of that background, the communications background, because you got the journalism there, but you had a very interesting career. But tell us what that entailed.
well, I got enamored with journalism back in the 70s with the Watergate scandal, just like everybody else did, and went to journalism school back in North Dakota and had my eyes set on a newspaper career early on. By the time I was 14, and never really deterred from that. And so I ended up working in newspapers in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana and Oregon. Before I returned to Montana, thought I wanted to be a publisher. Turned out I didn't want to be a publisher once I got a look at the other sides of those businesses in marketing and circulation. That was not fun. So I was looking for a different career, and newspapers were kind of on the downside at that point. They were losing subscribers in a big way, and it just didn't look like there was a long future there left. And I had about half a career to go. And it happened that Campgrounds of America had their corporate offices in Billings, Montana, and I had a friend that was an acquaintance of the CEO at the time, Jim Rogers, and he put us together, and we hit it off in a big way. And Jim is still a very close friend. And a matter of fact, he's going to come out and visit me. He and his wife are going to come out and visit us here in Hawaii in October and spend a week with us. And
what is he doing now?
he is, he's still big in the Boy Scouts of America. He's always been in
He's
Boy
an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, he and everybody all the boys in his family are Eagle Scouts, and a big believer in that program. Of course, they've gone over their own travails over the last few years, and he's helped guide them through a lot of minefields as they tried to recreate themselves as scouting in general, with girls involved in the program now too. And so they're still deeply involved in that. He has a lot of grandkids scattered around the country. A lot of them right in Nevada. They live in Reno, Nevada still, and they've been having a great time in retirement, from what I can tell. I know they're off traveling again because they're going to be coming to visit us in October.
Mike, great guy. Tell him we said hello. He was always accessible to the media. Great guy. We did several videos and shows with him. But
yep.
Yeah,
Bob,
he was a class act.
I am. I know Mike is not into online dating. However, I'm looking at our guest list right now.
Why, somebody looking for a date?
No, I see Don Barone is on.
Yep.
And Mike, if you are a writer, you need to hook up with Don, because I'm sure Bob would agree that Don Barone is, in my opinion, one of the best writers anywhere. And he does it, Bob, agree with me on this or disagree, but he does it mostly with words under 5 letters and, and sentences under 5 words. And he makes you cry, and he makes you laugh, and he gets you into the story. And he says here, use simple words to tell the simple truth. You need to, we'll put you two together, because
we'll send you some. He can say more in fewer words to bring people to tears. He writes for Bassmaster, and he's been with ESPN. If you follow the Bassmaster Classic at all, it's great because he was an investigative reporter, And when they hired him at ESPN, they wanted him to cover fishing, which he never had covered. But he doesn't cover fishing or the anglers. Let me just put it this way.
No, don't say fishermen.
He talks about the people who fish, the anglers. And Mike, the stories the way he gets it. In fact, he returned to the place that he wrote the first one
14 years ago.
He's going to finish out the year, and then he's done with them. But I'll send you some links because
sure,
you know, said that before though. He's quit about 3 times already.
Good storytellers will always be employed because there's it's one of those things that's like public speaking or giving speeches. It's something that a lot of people are terrified by, and that's something that has fueled my career, even on the PR side. People that don't like to write their own stuff, people that don't like to write their own speeches. Putting the words together the right way is an art form, and I'm definitely not the best at it. And I always love to meet and talk to folks that are better at it than I am.
You would love having a drink with Mr. Barone. See what I told you about early in the show, Mike? Dante,
oh yeah,
Dante's a little bit late tonight.
Very polite.
Jim Roy did show up on time tonight, so he did not.
Well, that's because we castigated him last time that he was late.
Yeah, Audrey's here. We have a great crowd. It's like a family that gets together every Wednesday night.
I want to stay on that writing. Let me stay on that writing for just a second. I don't know what your impression is, but I think we have a real problem in this country in that people can't write. The kids can't write. The college people can't write. The journalism as we knew it, as we grew up, or the way that some of us made some money along the way. What's your take on that, Mike? Because you're so good and you're humble about it, but you're a great writer. When you see some of the stuff that newspapers and even TV reads off their teleprompters because they can't have a clear thought in their head. But what's your take on that?
Oh, I think it's a tough one because it's what's delivering the news now. What's the source for people? I can remember back 10 years ago when how distraught we were. Experienced journalists were just so distraught when they found out that there was a whole generation that was getting their news from Google, from Facebook. They had given up on the traditional media that we thought was always going to be there and was always going to be so strong. And so the rules that we were brought up with, both in writing and in journalism, the fairness, the telling both sides of the story. We had an editorial page for editorial, and we had news for news, and we got accused often enough of not being fair. And
all one thing now.
Yeah. So now when it's common practice for people to take what they find on Facebook as news, and they click those links through, and they get that junk news that they consider, well, I read it. It's out there, so it must be true.
Got to be true.
That thing about it must be true. I think what's really been lost, Bob, is that trust. You knew that a traditional media, whether that was a radio or TV station that was held accountable by the FCC, or a newspaper that had a lot more freedom, but also was held accountable by its readership and just by the industry at large. That doesn't happen anymore. Nobody's holding anybody accountable for anything they want to post up there and call news anymore. So that's been degraded in a while. And when you start talking about the writing skills, you didn't used to be able to get into this business or get into the communications business without the proper training and the proper background and the proper experience. But now everybody's got a website. Everybody's a news person. I think they run into that at the White House all the time when these people show up and they say, I'm the editor of, and they give a website someplace, and they come and they are a legitimate media. We've legitimized illegitimate media.
We've made it legitimate, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, what we considered legitimate media, like any news network, has turned to not legitimate anymore, because I don't know, Mike, in your days, if you've ever went to a sporting event or to a concert or to a play, and then this is pre-internet, and then the next day read the review or the summary of it, and you said to somebody you were with saying, hey, were we at the same event? I don't know if you ever had that happen, but now when you look at a president of the United States speak, regardless of who the president is, if you have on the left channel, you hear one story. If you have on the right channel, you hear the totally opposite story, and they're reporting on the exact same thing. And luckily we're as we focus on RVing at some time during this show, there's not a ton of controversy. Maybe the controversy would be, do travel trailers outsell motorized 4-to-1 or 5-to-1? And then you argue with that. But
well, no, Mark and Don would argue with you on that statement, because the problem that we have is, going back to Facebook, what people, somebody posts something and then they get 10 idiots that give them an answer, 9 of which would kill them if they ever put it in.
Incorrect answers, right?
The biggest thing that Mark faces in trying to get intelligent and educated consumer education out there, because even the RVers rely so much on the internet.
Yep. And that problem that I had last week with my generator, and I posted it on a giant website. In fact, Don and Pat Hawes are familiar with that website. You know what? And people want to help, but when you're talking about propane gas, you can't afford to have the wrong suggestions presented to you, because you can kill yourself.
Well, it gets worse than that, John. Think about what happens. You guys probably do the same thing I do. If you wake up one morning and you've got a terrific sore throat, or all of a sudden you've got a pain in your knee, usually the first thing people do is they start Googling it to see what the home remedies are, and then they'll try a whole bunch of stuff off of websites before they think about going to a medical professional. It's kind of the same thing with information. They would rather go find sources of information that agree with whatever their original take is on it, and then they'll live there. So that's what, to your point earlier, that's what gave the genesis to the strength of a Fox News or a CNN, because all of a sudden they were perceived as having that same bent that an individual has. So I'm going to spend all my time watching Fox, or I'm going to spend all my time watching CNN, and then the divide grows because the debate goes away.
Exactly.
You get a member of your fan club on tonight, Mike. Fire it up, PR. Huh?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yep.
We've Diana and I spent a lot of time together out at the Ventura Ranch KOA serving pancakes and orange juice.
Oh, okay. Well,
on Sunday mornings.
He's right here in Boston, so we get to see her often, and good friend all the way around. Walter Swenson says, poor spelling and grammar drives me nuts when a major news outlet publishes articles. Isn't that the truth? I mean, there's so few people know how to
spell.
And
even getting back to your original point, Bob, why is all this happening? Well, part of it is newspapers don't have staffs anymore. TV stations don't have staffs anymore. So where is all this material coming from? Well, it's kind of my bread and butter now. I'm not employed by Campgrounds of America anymore. I'm a contractor to them on certain levels, but I'm also a contractor, a freelancer to a lot of other publications and websites that I'll provide content for. I think I'm pretty marketable, but there's a lot of folks out there that don't have a background that are providing content for legitimate news sources, because that's all they have. You see a lot of newspapers, legitimate newspapers, that will pick up a press release and not question it, and whatever they get, they run verbatim. And so all of a sudden that becomes legitimate news, and to Walter's point, that's where the spelling happens. That's where the grammar happens, because guess what? There's no copy desks left on newspapers to check that anymore either. It's just getting copied and pasted.
As you were saying that, Kim Foley McKinnon, who's part of the Girl Camper Network, wrote, "Hello, facts." Bob, can you put hers up there? "The loss of the copy editor and proofreader is a tragedy at newspapers."
She's absolutely right.
She's a writer also, Mike. She's written some books, writes some travel guides for AAA, and she's the Massachusetts State Director for Girl Camper. great writer.
I can guarantee you'd be quite shocked if you went into some well-known publications to see that the copy editor has been replaced by spell check, and that's what it gets.
And you know what? That goes back to when I was doing the college teaching. I always told the kids, there's THERE, there's THEIR, and there's THEY''RE. Do not mix them up. There's TO, TWO, and TOO. And, you know, Bob, I was teaching 10 years ago at a college, and I had Bob come in as a guest speaker at one of my classes. And I brought assignments home to my wife, who's a teacher, to read. And I didn't say anything except read these. And she handed them back to me and said, "These are freshmen, right?" I said, "No, these are seniors."
Seniors. This was their review of my present. What did they get out of my presentation about sales, about marketing, and what have you? And it did. I mean, I cried to read them. You would think they came out of middle school. Yep. They were absolutely horrible, and they were seniors ready to go out into the workforce.
Now, so we don't sound like three old guys just sitting here griping about the kids. They are an extremely sharp generation, and that's been driven by the fact that they have to process an incredible amount of information from a incredible amount of sources incredibly fast, and that's really made their minds much quicker and much more capable of processing information than ours ever was, probably. Now, the failure of their education, possibly in the writing styles and the care for spelling. Gosh, you think about how much texting those generations do, and everything's a shortcut. Everything's an abbreviation. Everything's
spelled C-U-Z.
And spelling isn't important when you're texting. So that all leaks over. But I can tell you that I worked with enough millennials and Gen Zers to know that I'm not too worried about their drive. I'm not too worried about their ambition, and I'm certainly not too worried about how fast they can adapt. So they're probably the most adaptable generation we're ever going to have.
Yeah, as long as it's not early in the morning.
About the amount of information. Hey, congratulations to Kim. Diane tells us Kim is now the president-elect of the Society of American Travel Writers. Big time. Congratulations, Kim.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get back to RVing there for a second.
Let's go back to RVing.
You did, I don't know, what may be considered a controversial story in RV travel about is the diesel Class A diesel dead.
That was one of the ones on RV travel. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there was another one, Bob, that you posted last week. I
meant to grab a screenshot and I didn't have time, but we should spend some time on both of them. But the most recent one, Mike, tell us, it was about grandchildren, your take on how RV can impact. So kind of consolidate that for our fans.
Well, I had really the absolute pleasure of hosting three of our nieces out here for the last couple of weeks. And there are two 13-year-olds and a 17-year-old. And one of the things that struck me early on during their visit was that they were totally absorbed by their electronic devices. They all had iPads that they came with, and they all had phones. And they were constantly, more than I remembered before in my interactions with that generation. It was always in their hand, or they were always on it. And that's okay. I mean, that's just input. Like I said before, that's information that they're downplaying. But one of the things that struck me was I was showing them all these beautiful things out here, including we went to a beach that was just literally crawling with giant green sea turtles. And they turned their phones around, they took a picture, and they said, "Oh, that's cute," and they posted it on their Instagram, and then they wandered off. They weren't impressed by things that take our breath away. The vistas and the natural beauty and the things around here. And I think it's part of that's because they are so inundated with imagery and stimulus all the time that they're getting harder and harder to impress. And it certainly is a rough addiction, especially on the young teen years. There's been a lot of studies that I quoted in that article that says that how dangerous that is to a growing mind to have that kind of addiction to technology, so that you never get unplugged. You're always on. I would estimate that my nieces were connected, by an electronic device for probably, at least 8 or 9 of the 10 or 12 hours they were up. I mean, they were always on it. And it was interesting because once in a while we'd be watching a TV show and they weren't watching the TV show. They were on their phone, either texting with their friends, looking at YouTube or some of the other channels, watching videos on there. It's that constant stimulus. They didn't even have the attention span to watch a half an hour television show anymore because it has to be just coming at them all the time. And so that's what triggered that article by me. And I just, it was kind of a warning shot. And I put it back on the RVing crowd because I just think grandparents have an opportunity at least to make the effort to get out there with their grandkids, acknowledge the fact that the parents who are probably in their 30s or early 40s have a little bit of a problem with electronics too. And I'm sure my wife will tell you that I have my phone in my hand way too much. And so she has to yank it out of there once in a while just to get my attention. So I can't say I'm totally pure of it, but if you've got the ability with an RV to put the grandkids in it and take them on a trip, my suggestion was take them up in the woods someplace where there isn't any Wi-Fi.
No internet.
It's the one time it's okay to find a campground with crappy internet and say, hey, sorry kids, you can't stream Netflix tonight. Let's go around the campfire and have a discussion, or let's take a walk, let's take a hike. So I think
in the woods, right.
Yeah, and it's absolutely an opportunity to show them something else. Now, whether that sticks or not, I don't know, but I think it's worth the effort.
Yep. Let me acknowledge we got Chris Andrew jumped in for a little bit. He's Hemlock Hill RV in Connecticut, and I know how busy he is, so thank you very much for taking time to jump in for a little bit, Chris. But he practices what he preaches, Mike. He goes out every weekend with his brother and their families, and they're in the campground every weekend, and that's part of that process. But we always comment about that we have a lot of dealers that don't do that. They sell RVs, but they're not out there. And if you're not out there doing it, it's tough for you to convince the grandparents why they should buy an RV to take their kids out, because you get to see that firsthand. But I thought that was a tremendous article.
When I saw Chris come on and somewhat apologize that he just popped on, what I'd like Chris, he must still be here because it was just a few minutes ago. And hey, there's Brad Moore. He's up in Maine somewhere.
He's up on the boat.
Yeah, and Audrey, we'll get to your issue in just a minute. But Mike, do you believe that there is enough lines of open communication between the camping industry and the retailers, not the manufacturers, but the retailers of RVs? Is there enough doors open?
I think there's been some movement in the last few years. I spent about 10 years on the Go RVing committee with RVIA as the KOA, the Campgrounds of America representative on there. And that was eye-opening to see that from the manufacturer's side. I mean, there was a marketing program that was designed to help sell RVs. And I looked at that at my time there as it was my duty to kind of speak for the campgrounds.
Right.
And it was always frustrating it wasn't always frustrating, but it was sometimes frustrating because they were selling RVs and showing things that I thought were unrealistic. They had Class A RVs parked, within the waves of the Pacific Ocean on the beach, or they had Lake Louise coming out the back window.
Yeah.
Someplace you were never going to go. And the response was always, response was always, well, we're selling the romance of RVing, not the reality of it. But the reality of it is there's this really fun, great lifestyle that's built around public parks, state and national parks, commercial campgrounds. It's a good, fun outside activity that families enjoy. Obviously, they enjoy it because it's been so busy this last couple of years. But it's not shown or marketed that way. So to your point, there's been a lot of efforts, I think, to bring the groups together, and that doesn't mean that you line up all the organizations, whether it's RVA and RVic and RVDA, and get them all in the same structure or all in the same organization. I don't think that's healthy. There should be debate, but there's a huge disconnect in the industry between the RV manufacturing side and the end user, the actual person that buys the rig. If again, I've been working with RVtravel.com with Chuck for quite a while now, and or at least for the last 6 months, and it's been going great. I really enjoy working with RVtravel.com because it's this format that really isn't beholden to anybody. You know, the way that site is built is they don't rely on advertising from the industry. They don't rely on anything other than their members, their subscribers and so it just gives you free reign to talk about what you need to talk about. And that's been very welcoming. So if I was an RV dealer, I would certainly be going to RV Travel to try and stay up on the pulse of what RVers are thinking, because that is probably the best group of dedicated RVers that you're ever going to see. And every article in there has comments on it. So anytime that an issue pops up, whether that's kids in the woods or diesel engines, you're going to see RVers commenting on that about their experience and what happened here and there. And it's a great resource for RV dealers to know what's going on in their world with their customers, you know, in a very verbatim way.
It's a great point, because one of the things that Chuck does really well is his surveys, and I don't think enough people pay attention to his surveys. I saw a survey the other day that was controversial. It was political in nature, so we won't even go into it. But the headlines were all over the place, and then you get down to the bottom and you see they surveyed 527 people. We got 330 million people in the country, but they're out broadcasting a headline that's absurd based on 537 people. When Chuck does a survey every weekend, he gets at least 2,000 or 3,000, and if it's a very topical thing, he'll get 5,000 responses. So yes, the industry should look at that, because that is a broader bandwidth of all types of RVs. It's not the older generation in an FMCA. He's got everybody from young kids to older people.
And I can't tell you, you think after 20 years in the communications side with a major camping company, I would be pretty well in tune with how the RV manufacturers as individual companies are gathering their user data. I don't have a clue. I don't know what kind of surveys, what kind of user groups they're using in order to come up with floor plans, come up with features, come up with the aftermarket parts that go into an RV. I don't know where that comes from. And you think by now I would be plugged into that. We've had problems before.
So Mike, you were talking about grandchildren, and we just have our oldest grandchild here, who's her name. Tell us your name.
Mila.
And how old are you, honey?
Hello, Mila.
And you've been camping with us since you were what, 2 years old? Okay. Tell us.
No, John, Mila, go over and get the picture of all the grandkids right behind you. Go over and grab.
I don't want her to drop that yet. But first I want to tell her, I want her to tell the audience what you like best about when we go out camping. I mean, it's not the internet. You like going out, and tell us what you like best.
The pools.
The pools. What else? But you like going out in nature and finding frogs and snails. Yeah.
And you leave your cell phone at home, right?
Yeah. And just last weekend, I looked back and or a couple weeks ago when we had her out somewhere, and my daughter, who was her mother, said Mila is making a concerted effort to disconnect, to get off the phones.
She is really looking like her mother these days.
Oh, isn't she?
She is. Boy, you can see it. All right, Mila, do me a favor. Go over and get the picture behind Grandma on the wall there. I've got to get, you know what I'm doing?
I'll get it.
All right, I'm gonna do a quick commercial, because we actually have a commercial to do tonight. So bear with me, guys. Let me get it up here. I was talking to Eva Middick at Go Power the other day, and Eva has done some amazing things. We've had them on the program, and I mentioned to her that I saw an ad that it's the 25th anniversary for Go Power, which happens to be and coincide with the first year We both started I started writing in the RV business in 1996. Go Power was incorporated. So we're both celebrating 25 years, and they now have 1 million panels sold. And then she was talking to me about a new product that's coming out called DuraPack. And this is an amazing product. It's portable. It features 8 watts of power in folding solar panels, dual USB output. It's equipped with a flashlight and a strobe, waterproof solar panels, 1-year warranty, charges your cell phone 3 times. It's all solar. And through talking to her, and I said, well, look, I'm going to give you a little plug on the show. And she said, well, if you do that, I'm going to give you 5 of these to give away during the show. So we are going to give away 5 of the DuraPack panels. And the way that we're going to do it, as we do with a lot of our giveaways, is we're going to pick out a number. So I think I'm going to go with 10. So until we hit 5, the 10th comment, the 20th comment, the 30th comment, you are going to get this product from them. It will be available in mid-August, and I have to go back to what she said, because I asked her, oh, where is it? Oh, it's only $50 manufacturer suggested retail price. It'll be available in the middle of August at all of your camping and RV stores. So thank you very much, Eva Middick. Thank you very much, Go Power, and the great company, and we thank them very much for supporting us tonight. So by now, DePietro must have the picture of his 6 grandkids that he takes camping all the time. Go ahead. Oh, you know what, John? I'll give you the full screen. In fact, if you go a little higher, it'll hide your ugly face, and you can just see the 6 kids. There you go. All right. And they love to go camping with Grandpa.
They do. And
Yeah.
Nana, too.
And oh, yeah, Grandma, yeah.
Nana does all the work. I just drive.
Yeah.
I just drive. So,
Right,
Mike,
so I want to go back to one of the other ones that Mike said about the diesel pushes, because it was misinterpreted. Audrey thought that there was something about DEF, and Brad Moore came back and explained what. Tim Christensen, yes, $50. That's list price, Tim. I'm sure you can do better. But talk about the article that you wrote about the future or the survivability of Class A diesel pushes. Another one that got a lot of good response.
Well, that was last week, and that wasn't actually my writing. That was Russ Damaris, who works for
Russ,
RV Travel too.
Okay.
And Russ, he's a phenomenal writer, and he uncovered this great story that's been going on for a while. But he had some, and it's a continuing story. He's going to be following up on it for sure on RV Travel. But it's a story about how diesel engines, and not just RVs, are being crippled by this DEF sensor. It goes all the way back to the supply chain problems we've all been having, because this sensor that actually is an emissions sensor that makes sure that the diesel engine is not overly polluting. It's designed relatively poorly. It's not shielded well away from the moisture and the heat of the rest of the exhaust system, and the sensor is failing. And what it does is it deauthorizes the diesel engine, and so the engine gradually slows down its maximum speeds until pretty soon, as fast as you can go is 10 miles an hour. Well, if you're out in the middle of Death Valley and all of a sudden your RV is maxing out at 10 miles an hour, that's going to be a long trip. Or if you're going down I-5 and you're the guy going 10 miles an hour, that's an issue. Well, it's the story kind of concentrated on who's to blame a little bit. And of course, it's attached to typically a Cummins engine right now. And Cummins is trying to deal with it. They didn't make the chip, and they didn't make the part that's the actual DEF sensor that's failing in this instance. But there is a workaround that the Department of Transportation has approved for emergency vehicles, because there's fire trucks, there's ambulances out there that are having the same issue. So they had to come around with a workaround. So they came around with a software patch that basically bypasses the need for this sensor. That it was kind of an emergency declaration to get that through. And it was a temporary thing. Then as soon as the chips are available, they'll fix those vehicles too. But in the meantime, everybody's waiting on these chips, including Cummins, because they can't do anything other than this software workaround, but they're not authorized to do it on anything but emergency vehicles. That leaves RV travelers are in a real lurch because if your diesel just shuts down because of this sensor failure, you're stuck. You're stuck where you landed. I mean, there's no way to get that RV home if you're out on the road on a big trip and it all of a sudden fails. And all of a sudden we're seeing a lot more of these things failing, and that's why Russ picked up the story and is running that. And I know he's been in touch with Cummins, who is trying everything I'm sure that they can to fix it. But the real long-term fix is to get the chip market back in order, and that's going to be a while. That could be more than a year before that supply chain is fixed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Mike.
Mike Perry's on tonight with Dealer Resources Group.
Where is
does a great job with our dealers, and Mike does a lot of work with GoPower, and he says he has one. So have you tried it out yet, Mike? Because I know they're just being put out there. I haven't got mine yet, so but it's coming. So we'll see.
Hey, Mike, when you write stories, and you know what? I've been around this media business on the PR side for a long, long time. And I talked to a writer once and I said, do you get upset when you get a negative comment about your story? He said, no. He said, I get upset when I get no comment about my story.
Right.
What is the feedback that you're getting from RV Travel? Because Chuck has just, worked so hard developing that membership, not membership, the readership. For example, on that grandchild story, what kind of feedback?
Most folks on that particular story, most folks agreed that there certainly is a problem, and some of them lamented the loss of a generation, which I think is probably a little overstated. But I've always felt that feedback is wonderful, and it's sometimes it has gotten worse. People think you always have a political bent or you've got an angle that you're pursuing, and I suppose sometimes that's true. But you do your best you can as a writer to walk down the middle and tell the story, and sometimes that means you're talking to somebody that you don't agree with by any stretch of the imagination, but they have an opinion that needs to be said in order to round out the story. So if writers are taking great pains to tell both sides and let the reader decide where they land and where the truth falls, I think that they've done their job. And certainly the criticism is always going to come, and it's been much more harsh since the advent of the internet. I think that the RV Travel group is a very well-behaved group. I think they understand that they're subscribers, and it's a very civil conversation in most cases. And it's made to uplift, it's made to inform, it's made to make the lifestyle a little bit better and a little bit easier. And it just makes it's the best platform I've ever seen as far as allowing campers to get involved in the lifestyle they love so much.
Yeah. It's an interesting answer because last Saturday morning we were camping, and to get to the campground, I had to, drive 350 miles. So when I pull into a rest area, even though I can use the bathroom in the back of my motorhome, I always, just to walk, to get exercise for my feet, I go into the rest area bathrooms. And when I came, this one was particularly dirty. And when I came back out, I said, man, it's such a good thing that I don't have to rely on that. So I went on RV Tips, which is Don and Pat Hawes. They have some administrative, responsibility there. And I put public bathrooms, 25 reasons to love an RV, to love having an RV. And I put reason number 1, filthy public restrooms. And I put, what's your reason? And within an hour, I had 50 reasons. And then over the next few days, there's 279 reasons why people like RVing. Mm-hmm. So that is, from a writer's perspective, from a person who posted it, I love that, because I was going to do a video, 25 reasons to love RVing. And now I can do volume 10 with the same thing.
Well, and I know that on RV, if you go to rvtravel.com right now, there's a series that's running up there. There's one up there today where we ask folks, why do they love RVing? Why do they love their RV? And those individual stories, we thought we'd be able to put several of them into one story, but they're so compelling that we're doing them as individual stories because people really opened up. And one of the things I always had a hard time explaining to the outside media, the big time media, the New York Times, when they would call and they'd want to know, back in 2008 when the economy went in the toilet, and the phone call was always, well, you guys are going out of business, right? Nobody can afford the price of gas. Nobody's working. So your guys are sort of out of business. And the answer was no.
That was their premise.
Right. Because they just couldn't believe that if times are tough, people aren't doing this, right? And it was just the opposite. And so to explain to them that this isn't a leisure activity that people can take or leave. This is a lifestyle choice that people make. This is a very deep felt thing that people, they build their families around this. They build they spend their very, very valuable family free time on this lifestyle. And they've invested, tens of thousands of dollars typically in a piece of equipment to support that lifestyle. And it's parked in their driveway. It's parked in the side of their house, or they're paying somebody to store it. And by gosh, they're going to use it even when times are tough, because that was a release. And I think that explains a lot of what happened last year when the restrictions came down for the pandemic. Everybody hit the road, and everybody wanted to give this a try because it was the answer. It was the answer we always talked about. And so when we've got millions, literally millions of new people buying rigs, renting rigs. There's something we never knew about 5 years ago, was renting a rig from Outdoorsy, the other services, and hitting the road on these things. Well, that's going to stick. There certainly will be a lot of people that give it a try and don't like it or think, it's not for me. But when you've got, millions and millions and millions of people coming on board, it's the expansions happen in a big bubble. And that's just going to stick. They're all adopting a lifestyle choice. It's not something that they do once or twice and give up. I mean, they're making a total shift in their lifestyle in order to be an RVer.
And as you answer, I'm watching over. Walter Swenson is the hardest. He's working harder than he's ever worked to get enough comments up there to be one of the winning.
He wants to win.
Right behind him is Kim Foley McKinnon, who's up there posting away.
And Diane McNamara.
Well, she slacked off a little bit, but Walter's still going there. Audrey, she's got two within the sound of my voice. But Bob, look, some of these comments are like.
Let me throw another ringer in there. Then I'm going to take one of the five, and I'm going to pull it out. And Mike has formed, his own company, obviously, since he's now contracting with KOA, and the company is Emiola Group. So
spell that.
The question then becomes. And if I can find it here. Okay. What does Emiola mean in Hawaiian? And I'm only going to give you till 7:55. Whoever comes up.
It means Dole pineapple.
It
means Dole pineapple.
Whoever comes up with that answer, I will give them one of the packs. Now, I know they're all scurrying out to the internet to check it out. But it's got to be the first one that posted. So, John, you watch and see if anybody posts it.
Yeah, but I'm watching Diane McNamara just saying me, standing in the back row. Me. Me. Yeah. But see, Diane is part of the industry, so she probably shouldn't be eligible.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, so we'll exclude everybody in the industry, and
anybody who works.
Kill her connection now, and Kim will kill her connection.
John.
Okay, at least good health. I don't know. Does that mean it? Is that it?
Nope, that's not it.
That's not it. Okay.
It's close.
Okay. Goodbye.
I
adopted camping RVing 47 years ago. A little hiccup for 3 years. Now back with it and glad of it. Frank Cates. Say what? I never get to play the reindeer games. Walter Swenson. Seek one's highest and best life.
That's the one.
Oh, you know what? I guarantee.
But see, he got to the end. See, Walter's our resident engineer. So
okay. Walter,
so-
I'm
so
sure
wait
he
a minute, wait a
Googled
minute.
it.
All right, I'm gonna let you be the moderator. Is he correct? Well, let me get
That is correct. It's
me get
seek,
Walter off there.
Yep, seek your best life. That is what it is. It's actually Emiola, and that's because the I's in Hawaiian are spelled are sounded out as an E, so it's pronounced Emiola.
Okay. Emiola.
Okay. I guarantee, Bob, that Walter just Googled it.
I'm sure he did.
Yep.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Walter says, seek only his highest right. So,
Okay.
That's right.
all right, Walter, because you're such a good fan, you might even be a top fan, but for that, I'm going to designate one of the solar Durapack, Go Power Durapacks to you. And I will do that.
Yeah. You'll get it in about 2 years. Yeah. Go power.
I'll tell you, I'll assign it to John to deliver it to you. How's that, Walter? That
Hey,
work?
I want to bring up an important point here with the number of newcomers and the number of new people renting. And just today's Wednesday, right? 2 days ago, Monday morning, Sunday night into Monday morning, we're parked at the Bob knows that we're at the rest area in Lee, Mass. That has the Easy Pass thing where they wouldn't let you and your wife in.
Right.
And a Class C pulls up next to me, and the guy comes out, and I just, went out because I was going into drop something in the trash. And the guy he has his air conditioner on. He said to me, does the generator bother you? I said, no problem, because it was venting out the other way. So it was kind of a musty, not, what do you call it? A steamy night, muggy night.
Yeah.
So I wake up the next morning and I see the generator is still running, and I go around the other side of his unit, and his generator was right behind the driver's seat. And what he did was he put out the slide on the driver's side. So the exhaust was going right up into the slide. And I told him, I knew it was a rental because it had Myers Brothers Rentals on it. And I said, look, I'm not telling you what to do, but you can kill yourself that way and not know it until you're dead. So anybody who might be watching this show right now, including our regulars, if you're going to run a generator to keep your air conditioner on all night, you better get one of those devices that takes the exhaust fumes away from the unit, because we don't want to be reading about you in the paper.
Make sure that you test your monitors and alarms well before, even if it's a rental rig. Make sure you do that. We just had 3 young men at a rock concert up on the East Coast died last week because they were in an RV and somebody was running a generator and it leaked into their unit. And I think two of them, there's 5 fellows in there, and 3 of them died, and 2 of them are still in serious condition in the hospital.
Mark Polk told me that. We had a friend that used to run his at night for the air conditioner. I said, you need to get one of those things that takes the thing up top there. It takes the exhaust up top. And he finally did. And thanks to Mark Polk for being my expert witness on that.
And his Walter.
Genturi stack. Thank you, Walter.
If you don't know what Genturi stack is, it hooks onto your generator pipe and takes all the vents above the top of the RV. And even me, who is so unlikely to know that answer and so technically inept, but I knew that one about generator and CO2.
It brings up an interesting point, John, that this huge influx of new people that are into this lifestyle now, whether that's with a brand new RV that they just purchased or whether they're renting for a week or a weekend, there's a lot of new people out there, and there's a lot of anxiety on the part of existing RVers with a lot of experience because they feel like there's undue competition for sites on campgrounds, and so there's all this animosity flying back and forth towards these folks. Well, they're out there and they're gonna give it a good go, and I think it's almost beholding on experienced RVers to kind of watch out for these folks a little bit, because you want them to learn the right way. I just wrote a story that's going to be in RV Travel this weekend regarding bear safety. We've had some instances in my former home state of Montana where folks have had run-ins with grizzly bears, and that's part of the reason is because there's a lot more bears than there was 20 years ago, and I
I thought you meant safety at a nudist camp.
No, it's bears.
That's another
And,
kind of bear.
The BEAR. There goes your spelling again, DePietro.
Yeah. So you've got all these new people out there camping, and they don't know food safety. They don't know food storage. So they're cooking bacon next to their tent or next to their tent camper, and saturating the sides of their RV with the smell of bacon, and then they expect the bears to stay away. Well, that just it just breeds this conflict. So you don't want anybody getting hurt. You don't want the bear to be destroyed. So there's got to be an education process to this, and I don't know. There's probably a lot more that everybody in the industry, including dealers, including manufacturers, can do to make sure that when these folks are leaving with these rigs, the rental market, I'm sure that they're doing what they feel they can at this point. But when you've got a rental market where the actual owner is the one handing the keys off to the renter, how do you know what they're being told about? Yeah. Do they know how to hook up and dump the tanks? Do they know how to run the generator? All those natural things for an experienced RVer don't come naturally when you're all of a sudden jumped into an RV. I mean, there's nothing more confusing than the first time you look at a control panel on the inside of an RV.
Yep. And ironically, our friend Walter Swenson also owns a rental unit that he rents out. And you know what? Me knowing Walter, he's probably got a 50 item checklist, but you can't teach common sense. You can't teach the thing about, the generator fumes, because you don't have that in you do have it in your car. You don't run your car in your garage, but you can run your car outside. But when that, and thank you, Mark Polk, for reinforcing that. When those fumes come up, they don't have a scent to them, and you don't know until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's that. We are we're having a great time. We're running out of time, and I see the comments, and I don't know if these are legitimate comments, Bob, because there is a prize attached to them, and
it's a very compliment. I think they really enjoyed having Mike Gast as our guest tonight, as did we, and they got a lot of good information. And follow Mike at RVtravel.com. If you don't get that newsletter, go to RVtravel.com and sign up for the weekly newsletters, and you'll be able to get a whole lot more of Mike Gast.
Can you get Jerry's comment?
I did see that. Jerry Plant from Majors RV.
He's a regular.
Fans too. LOA. Forgot about the time zone. Oh, he forgot. Hello from land between the lakes, Kentucky, Tennessee.
He's out. He's in the central time zone.
But wait a minute. Is that the one that Wendland did the story on, that's selling off the lot, selling them to RVers? They're picking up the lots. Are you down there buying a lot, Jerry?
That could be. Diane Mack
says, mine are legit, even after being put on the no toys for you list. Well,
so does that comment count? That's the big question.
Well, that's a good point. Now, do I take out all the comments from industry people? But you know what? We didn't say that beforehand. So to be fair, we won't rule out anybody. Whoever's on the 10th.
I think we need to get a Senate panel. A Senate investigative
special commission, yeah. Well, no, we just have to do better with our pregame announcements.
Well, I've been out with Diane, and I just on campgrounds before. I know how much she uses her cell phone. She could probably really use that solar charger, so I'd definitely gift her one of those.
Well, the amount of time that she talks, you must be referring to how often she talks and how often she uses the phone, right?
Absolutely.
Although she did get us a good guess.
That's right. Guess what? That's why
a great guess.
She can charge her phone 3 times, Mike. That means she doesn't have to go over to Starbucks and plug it in the wall and wait 20 or 30 minutes. She utilizes her time very effectively in the
and she doesn't need any more coffee anyway.
Diane,
no, she doesn't need coffee
look
at all.
at her. She is just pimping herself beyond belief. Look at that. Charging her blender. Let's be honest. Yeah. No. So you need to hook up with Audrey Foley Egan. You talk about blenders, And you know what, Gami, we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Well, I'll make my own little my last plug here. If anybody's in need of a good storyteller, I'm still available at mike.emiolagroup@gmail.com. So anybody wants to get a hold of me there, I'd love to work with people in this industry. I've loved camping and RVing for all my life. I was my family owned one of the very first Jayco tent trailers that they made back in the 1970s. It was the very first year model that my dad purchased, and I've had some good times talking to the folks back at Jayco about that experience growing up. And that was my family rig, and that was the very first experience. And I've been in love with it ever since. So it's been fun to be in this industry for 20 years. And I didn't even mind it when we went to Louisville, and you guys kept coming by and stealing all my tchotchkes and candy out of my jar.
Well, that's the least of
M&Ms, yeah.
Mike.
But it should be pointed out that
Is that
Mike,
the correct email, Mike?
Yes, mike.emiolagroup@gmail.com.
I'm wrong. Okay.
you're right.
No.
mike.emiolagroup@gmail.
Yeah. Well, see, Zagami can't spell. Can't either. Bob Obarski, great information. Watch. I hope Bob, because it's his first and only post.
How's that?
There
How's
you
that
go.
one, Mike?
That looks right.
All right. Don says, so good to see you, Mike. You are an asset to the industry. And
Well,
that's different from DePietro being an ass in the industry. You are an asset to the industry. So I want to make sure there's a distinction.
See, Mike, that qualifies as workplace violence.
Yeah, I think you guys need a little bit more than 2,000 miles between you.
No, we're only at 1,500 now.
Yeah,
But
we used to have that. All right, Mike, I'll give you the closing comments, and we sincerely appreciate you joining us on RVing in New England this week. It's always great to see you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys. And anytime, any topic you need me to chatter on, I've always got an opinion.
You're always welcome back. DePietro, any closing comments?
no, I better just shut up and say thank you much. But we will be going to Maine. But stay tuned next week, right here, same time, same channel, when I will have video of my
wait,
barbecuing.
do a quick plug. Talk
Okay.
about it again.
So next week, 60th anniversary of Loons Haven Family Campground. John DePietro is the celebrity guest at the barbecue contest and celebrity judge. Nobody else from RVing in New England will be there except me.
Are you bringing Mila to help you judge,
I don't know. We're working on that right now.
or the other five negotiating for a spot?
Yeah,
in the
right.
borough?
Exactly. They're negotiating for bargaining stuff.
All right.
So
Thank you, everybody. We
Have a
will
great
see
day,
you down the
everybody.
road. Have a
See you
great
next
time.
week.
Thanks.
See you,
Thanks.
Mike. Mahala. or Lahama or Lahaim.
Whatever.
Oh,
Good
that's
night.
Lahaina. Yeah. Okay.